Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chrissy Mayer podcast. We are on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us right now on iTunes, please go and leave a 5-star review. It can really say anything. Here's an example of a 5-star review. From JC Cool with a Q, really enjoyed the JPR episode. That's John Paul Rice. It was long, but the time flew by. Conversation was fluid, and the topics were spot on and very informal. Informal? I think he meant informative. Highly enjoyed it. Thank you. Oh, thanks, JC Cool with a Q. I wonder if that's a Q person. Probably. Yes, please go and leave reviews, and I will read the best ones every week, just like you saw just now. Very excited to talk about my sponsor, Silk City Hot Sauce. You got to spice up your life in the lockdown. As we come out of the lockdown, if you're boring and was raised on boring food like I was, you need to go to silkcityhotsauce.com and spice up your life. Use the code CMP to get 15% off your purchase. They will also throw in for free a bottle of cherry sriracha. That's the hot level right there. It's pretty hot. And some stickers. I, for one, if you are a hot sauce virgin, go with the taco one. That's real good. The smoking one is real good. And if you just are someone who enjoys pain, go for the hotter ones. But I think that's a good place to start. Anyway, silkcityhotsauce.com. Use the code CMP to get 15% off. And also, Adam and Eve says that the best part of staying at home is playing at home. Go to adamandeve.com and use the special code. Guess what? It's also CMP at checkout, so you can get almost any item for 50% off. And when you use the discount code CMP, you will get bonus gifts, 6 spicy movies, 3-piece bonus set, plus free delivery. What? Is this Amazon? No, it's better. Adam and Eve has thousands of gifts, toys, and movies to help us lock down some great sex. I wrote that. No, my boyfriend wrote that. Just make sure when you go to adamandeve.com, use the code CMP, and you can get almost 50% off. Get a new vibrator, anal beads, whatever. But I'm not here to judge. I'm very excited to have this gal on today. She is actually the second presidential candidate we've interviewed on the Chrissy Mayer podcast, but first female presidential candidate. She is running as an independent this year as a presidential candidate for 2020. She's the consciousness vote, and you can write her in. Sorinne Ardeleanu, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Chrissy.
I am so thrilled you could do it. I want to start. So your background, it's interesting. I've listened to a few of your interviews, trying to learn more and be a good interviewer. I'm really fascinated by the fact that you were kind of raised without knowing it, raised on libertarian values, and that's how you were first kind of introduced. You had a bit of a difficult childhood, but as did I, and I noticed a lot of similarities between the two of us because I was raised, there were no boundaries in my house. My mom would just barge in when I'd be in the bathroom. Both parents would just barge in. I shared a room with my sister. There was never privacy. I could never shut the door. If you shut the door and if you locked the door, there was going to be hell to pay. And, I think I definitely had a difficult relationship with my dad. He drank a lot. He threw a chair at me once. We're good now, I guess. I don't know. But I loved listening to you and you talk about, so you're running on your platform is you talk about, your values that you're running on, love, consciousness, reason. That all sounds really good. It's just particularly to me because I'm also kind of a new agey weirdo as well. So how does that translate to politics and 2020? And how do these things that may sound abstract concepts come down and affect our lives now?
Sure. First of all, thank you for taking the time to get to know me a little bit. And I shared a bunk bed with my mom and my stepdad for many years.
Wow.
We were in a 1-bedroom apartment. So talk about no privacy.
Now I feel like an idiot for complaining about my sharing a room with my sister.
Well, it's all relative, right? I mean, that's actually a big thing that people don't understand is a lot of times we think that we have it really bad. And then there's always somebody else that has it worse, you know, and keeping that in mind that we actually have things really good, even the way the country is today, we still have it better in the United States of America than many other countries. And a lot of people are taking that for granted. So consciousness, love, logic, liberty, all these things, politics, me, as I've shared in some of my other interviews, but I'll share here is, I felt called to run in this specific election. I didn't want to be a politician growing up. I thought about being a psychiatrist, a veterinary, a lawyer, those things. And I've done those things for fun, without the piece of paper. I've been able to take care of myself and my needs. But as this year started getting closer, I started feeling more and more pulled. And as an adult survivor of child abuse, one of the things I had to overcome is imposter syndrome, because I heard that I was ugly and stupid every single day of my life from my family, the people that are supposed to love me. And so even though I know that I am an intelligent and attractive human being, right, that was something that I had to overcome. And that was something that I realized when we hear those things, we start to behave those ways, even if we're not. So I behaved like an ugly and stupid girl when I was younger. And so I realized a lot of people are enslaved by their own beliefs, by what they've been told, and it holds a lot of people back. And I realized that for me, what do I symbolize by running? Because I had to overcome this. I had to realize like I am enough and I do have a lot to offer, especially because I've been able to heal myself from all that trauma that was holding me down, and before I even got to healing myself, I was able to be successful on paper. But when I got there, it actually started destroying me. And I realized like everything that I had been sold, like this is the life you should have, have these things, make this much money, that didn't actually make me happy. That actually almost killed me. And I realized like so many other people are going through a similar journey where they've been sold something, they think that the ideal life looks like this, and they're chasing it. And when they get there, they're miserable because they haven't actually done their own inner healing work.
Right.
And so I realized like we really need a leader that helps people understand that freedom, health, prosperity, peace, all of that comes from within. We can't keep blaming others for our problems. We have to take personal responsibility. We have to do the work. There's no shortcuts. And right now, what this country is going through, we really need a leader that can build us back up. And it's not going to take money to do that. It's going to take care, compassion, coming together, teaching, each other how to fish, the people who do, right? And so that's really, why I feel very comfortable surrendering into this and realizing like, yeah, I am supposed to run. Yeah, I could be a wonderful president. And that it would be a great place to lift people up and unite people. That's kind of the short version.
Yeah. And like, so what would you say to people who look at your background and like, yes, you spent a lot of time working on yourself, which is crucial to like us reaching our own potential and like staying aligned, connected to source, all that stuff. What do you say to people who go, well, Sorinne, like, look at her background, like as if she was applying for a job, like, what actual experience, like, does she have in politics? Does she has no own business? She wasn't a doctor. How can she speak on health? Blah, blah, blah. Like what would you say to those people?
I am a serial entrepreneur. I co-founded an art gallery. I think by the time I was 22, I co-owned a nightclub also in this is all in San Francisco, California. I co-owned a nightclub for about 12 years. By the time I think I was 25 or 26, I started that. I also helped start an art hotel. I've been working.
What's an art hotel?
So there's a hotel in San Francisco called Hotel des Arts, and my old business partner and I, we brought in artists from around the world and had them paint the rooms. And so every room was painted by different artists. And Gavin,
fun.
Yeah, our current governor, who I know many people are not fans of, but I see good in everyone. But Gavin Newsom, he worked with us and helped us make like a art appreciation day in San Francisco, and we actually fundraised for him before he was mayor as well.
What do you think of him now?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a long time, so I really don't know, and I don't want to make that assessment. But I will say that running for office has changed my perspective on politicians immensely. And it's kind of disturbing because, for example, I don't know when this is going to air, but this week, Nancy Pelosi was caught getting her hair done in a salon without a mask, which is not
such a hypocrite.
legal. in
Yeah.
San Francisco, which is also very telling, right? Like she keeps saying, well, I believe in the science. But all of a sudden she's saying, well, I thought the rules changed. But how much staff does she have? And how long
Right.
has she been in office? And this is her hometown, right? So seeing through these things, but then also recognizing that I have friends that are defending her, that think that it's okay. And it's just like, wow, like I realize there's a lot of work to do. And so for me, like, I'm very patient. And because I really do try to come from a place of love when I engage with people. One of my gifts
Yeah.
is really helping people heal, and part of healing is being your most authentic self, which requires integrity. Because when you come to terms with, most of us are hypnotized, we've been programmed, we do things that aren't necessarily good for us. And so when you realize that you've been living your life based on lies, it can literally shock your whole system. Like I've been in and out of ER many times over the years because I had very severe PTSD, and that was part of my healing journey. And that's when I realized, like, a lot of people are going to be shocked when they realize all of the lies that they've been
Like the
fed.
media lies to us. The media is super liberal. Like Black Lives Matter was completely taken over and is like no longer the well-intentioned, movement I guess perhaps it set out to. And like speaking before, you were like, being hypnotized and like just believing lies, and I just, for me, I feel like that's like a lot of what, there's a lot more talking about racism, and I don't see very much actual racism like happening in my day-to-day life. And I feel like the media has made it so overblown and triggered people into being so angry that they go and protest and riot, and it's like creating more chaos.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I feel it's so weird. I don't like to say this, but I feel like almost the DNC wants to lose this year.
It feels
They're
that way.
creating a lot of division within the party, saying things like, you're not black if you don't vote, or if you vote Republican. Like,
It's
imagine if Trump
crazy.
said you're not white if you vote Democrat,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like, if it
they
was
would,
split,
yeah.
yeah, people don't understand the hypocrisy. Or like, I really love all people. Like, I always have. I don't care what gender they are, what race. None of that stuff has ever mattered to me, and people who know me know this. And so I thought about, just how like Black Lives Matter, right? How would I feel if I really said white lives matter, right? To me, that sounds racist. Like, yeah,
Oh
sure you do,
right,
but
right.
all lives matter. So it's like, flip the script. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people need to start doing that. Like, think about it. Put yourself in the other shoes, and how does that make you feel? If it makes you feel uncomfortable, then maybe it's not okay the other way. So that's kind of what I'm doing, is helping people wake up. And I will admit, I think one of things that I am working on is being gentler, because I'm very direct, because I can see through things. And it's like, I have to realize that they have to get here, right? Like I didn't just wake up like this, right? It took me many years of studying human behavior, of working on myself, of learning how to reason correctly, the laws of logic. And I'm still not perfect. It is an ongoing journey. And so I realized, like, other people have to go through that as well. And so I'm really doing my best to help get people from basically where I was, which was barely surviving, to infinitely thriving. And that's part of my vision, because this isn't just about winning this election. Yes, I want that to happen, and I'm going to get, I am giving 100% to it. But this is about the future of our species. This is about the future of our country. This is so much greater, because our country right now is falling apart. I'm in San Francisco, so I'm really seeing the effects. We have more unemployment and businesses closing now than we did in 2008. We have a lot more homeless on the streets. People are just abandoning the city. And yes, San Francisco is just a very tiny place in the entire country, but a lot of technologies come from here. We employ a lot of people, and everything's changing, and it could be good, because again, it's all relative, right? It's nice to not have to work from here, but it's still, I believe, indicative of what's going on in the rest of the country as well, that people are starting to lose their security and becoming more and more desperate. And so we really need a leader that can give people hope, that can help people believe in themselves. And as far as healthcare goes, I actually have a very heavy background in healthcare. I was in a doctoral program. I dropped out because I realized it was not the path for me, because I realized that I already had everything I need to help people heal. Most disease is actually functional. So there's three, and I'll explain that. So there's basically just three causes of disease: organic, structural, or functional. Organic is like a toxin, right? Like you drink
Is that
something.
inflammation? Is that more into the like what you put into your body,
well, there's different causes for inflammation. It could be functional too. You could think yourself sick. You could be worrying all the time, right?
Yeah, there's such
or
a
angry all the
mind-body
time,
connection. Yeah.
right? And so most of the people that are diseased are actually diseased because they're thinking negative thoughts, because they're listening to, watching negative things.
Like that's like a wild statement. You know what I mean? Like it's like, how do you, and I believe that's true. I completely agree with you. The crazy mind-body connection. Like my mom was diagnosed with cancer and she was like fighting. And then like she and my dad moved to Florida and I swear to God, it's like she just gave up. And then she was like, boo. I mean, she also had like the shittiest kind of brain cancer you can get, but it's like, it really speaks to the mind-body connection, because you've also seen people like have horrible things and then they like are mentally so strong and they can pull out of it. So how would you communicate that to the country? Do you know what I mean? Like it's a pretty like just that one belief is so big.
I've been planting seeds. I've been just leaving little nuggets. I've been writing since I've been about 10 years old. So writing is something that comes very naturally for me. So I make my own memes. I write all my content because I really want it to come from me. Because one of the things I've learned so I have a very heavy background in hypnosis. And speaking a certain way is very important. Again, I'm not perfect, so people, if they want to criticize me, I'm sure they'll find it, but I write very intentionally, especially like when I make a meme or something, because I want to make a positive suggestion for people. It's I hate to say it's kind of a subconscious. I'm communicating from subconscious to subconscious.
Okay.
Right. I have a heavy background in neuroscience and epigenetics as well. And so I've actually worked with some of the masters in those fields, like Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. John Rady, Dr. Sue Morter. I've created educational programs years ago. I'm still doing this kind of stuff just because I want to educate people, because if people aren't educated, if they don't know better, if they don't know different, why would they make better choices? Why would they make better decisions? And so that's a big part of what I'm doing. And like as president, what I see myself doing is having conversations with world leaders, having conversations with different experts and scientists, and having them public so that people can learn from them, because we are influenced by what we see in the media. We are influenced by the conversations our president has and shares with publicly, whether we are conscious of that or not. This the way that our brain works is we become more receptive when we're paying attention to something like this, right? As soon as you stop thinking, you're open to ideas, right? That's how we get hypnotized. One of the first things I learned in my undergraduate studies in psychology was that it takes as little as 33 seconds to hypnotize a human being.
What?
You can change their entire life in 33 seconds if you know what to say and how to say it, or what to present them with, right? Like an image, right? Like we have all these images of COVID around us. Why don't we have images of health, right?
Of like
what are we promoting?
Cells. Yeah.
Yeah. Why are we promoting diseased cells versus healthy cells? Because, I don't look at them because I understand the power of images, right? Because those things go into your subconscious mind through repetition. And so for me, being president is a way to spread positive images, spread positive ideas, and it actually makes the work a lot easier. And I really hope people know that I'm coming from a place of love, that I don't want, power. I want to free people. I was telling you before we started this, one of my campaign managers came up with a new slogan for me: big heart, small government. That's what I want. We need to come together. We need to love ourselves first, because we can't love anybody else if we don't love ourselves. And, every time I pay attention to something that makes me feel bad, that's not an act of self-love. I can choose what I focus on, right? And I hope this isn't too much, but I wanted to share because it's been on my mind, and that's what's happening around us. And I think a lot of people need to understand.
But how do you reach like the communities and the people that are like hard, you know what I mean? Like hard to reach. How are you going to like get across your message of like self-love and healing? And because when your cup is full, then you can fill other people's cups. Like I'm all about that. But how do you reach the people that are like so deeply brainwashed, or they've been, criminals all their lives, just like, like just kind of, not that they're lost souls, but, they've been failed by the people around them, and like how do you reach them?
Before running for president, it was one-on-one, and these programs that I create and everybody that I collaborate with promotes the work that I do. So like that's how I ended up writing for the Huffington Post and for Thrive Global. I reached out to Ariana Huffington and told her about what I was doing. She asked me if I wanted to write for her. Maria Shriver, she's promoted my work before, Schwarzenegger's ex-wife. It's a network. It's one person, I'm not an island.
Right.
We need each other. And that's a big part of my movement is like, we need to collaborate. We need to talk to each other. We need to share. And with people like that, back to media, right? If more people, especially creators of original content, understand where I'm coming from and genuinely want to make the world a better place, they will create music, entertainment, books, anything, right? And it will reach people eventually. It's not something that happens overnight, but it's something that's like a domino effect, and I know, like, I have friends, I'm not going to name them, but I have friends that are pretty famous that have made songs that I've inspired, and they've been like #1 on charts and stuff,
Wait, are you saying that you inspired Cardi B's Wet Ass Pussy song?
No.
That was just the first one that came to mind. WAP, that's about me. But yeah, I agree with you. Like there's a group consciousness, and if there's chaos in the, going on, and it's good to spread. And it's particularly sad when that's the goal of the media, to spread chaos and spread destruction. And it's.
Well, so I don't know if you're familiar. There's been, a lot of documents declassified from the CIA, and they're public, now. And one of the people I mentored, he shared something with me recently where they've understood how to hypnotize people, how to access different states of consciousness for several decades now.
MK Ultra, right? Like they would like split personalities. Is that what you're talking about?
No, a little bit different, but just like hypnosis, like getting people to do things that they wouldn't necessarily do on their own, getting people to believe things, right? This is our own intelligence that has known this, and you can count on them that they've been using this, and like I said, I learned it in undergraduate school about advertising. And so it's really helping people understand how the mind works, where behavior comes from, that I believe is really vital right now, so that people start to make their own decisions, so they start to think for themselves. And that's where the greatest freedom comes from, is when you own who you are, you own your own decisions. It's like, I asked somebody the other day, how does he decide, what's right or not as far as health goes? Like, oh, I listen to the experts, right? Like, who are the experts? You should know yourself. You should know your own body. You're the most closely connected to it. Like, if something doesn't feel right in my body, I can usually understand why and where it came from, because I'm so in tune with it now. We all have that ability. You don't need to go to somebody else to tell you whether you're healthy or not, and what you're doing, is hurting you or not. Just pay attention. If you do something and it makes you feel bad, maybe you shouldn't do it again, or if you eat something and it makes you feel bad, maybe you shouldn't, but it's, there's a lot of consciousness involved in that. And so I know that there's a lot of work for me to do, but I also know I'm not alone. And so that's inspiring. And, even talking to people like you, right? We are planting seeds, and it takes time for them to grow, but we have to keep planting them, because it's not just about us, it's about future generations. Like, we can't be so selfish.
Yeah, I love it. There definitely always needs to be like more love. And I agree with you. Like, we need to not just manage symptoms, which is what our whole, health system has been doing for decades, but it's like, it's icky, and they're just trying to profit off of people. It's like, there's so much out there. There's so much like just like health and like, nutrition knowledge out there, but like, it's being censored. It's crazy. Like, I posted something on Instagram just about different herbs, like in my story, and it was like taken down because like they thought that I was trying to promote like COVID cures. This was like a few months back, and I was like, are you guys fucking insane? Like, this is just like herbs, and it's like, I didn't say anything about COVID, and it's like, it's really gross. Like, we can really heal ourselves. And I think just like by what you said, listening to, like, figuring out, what did I eat today? Like, it's probably that, or it's probably stress, or how am I sleeping, and am I hydrated? Like, so much can be solved just by, checking in with those things.
The sad thing is, like what's going on right now in the United States with COVID is that I was looking at the comorbidity rate,
right,
and how it's just, 94% of people that died with it had other pre-existing conditions. Right. And so that could have been prevented if they chose to live different lifestyles for most people, And so that's what's really unfortunate, is that these people, many people think, oh, I'll wear a mask, I'll be fine. No, you're not creating health.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're actually weakening your immune system. You haven't changed your lifestyle. It's like you go to the doctor and they give you a drug. I've been on medication when I was younger because I was trying, as I was figuring out life. And it's like, but you're not addressing what's causing me to feel this way. I haven't eliminated that from my life,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you keep surrounding yourself with toxic people, you're still going to feel like crap. It's like, you shouldn't have to sedate yourself to, live. And that's really, something that nobody wants that.
So you're saying it's possible that somebody could be like wearing gloves and a mask and like being perfect, right? But they could still get it. Either they could get COVID or get like a bunch of other shit because, right, it's just the
there's
surfacey.
So much. There's
Surfacey
always
stuff.
Germs and bacteria around us.
Yeah.
I just spent the week at a Lassen Volcanic National Park, and I walked barefoot and hiked and drank from the creek. It's like, we need to be in nature. It's like we are animals. Yes, we are intelligent, we are more evolved, but we're still mammals. We're still part of this earth, even, and we need to remember that there are certain laws that govern all animals, especially physically. There are certain things we all have to do, like eat right, move right, sleep right, and clean right.
Yeah. It's so important just to be like connected, like put your feet on the dirt once in a while. Like that stuff is so strong. And just like since the lockdown, like my getting more sun has like helped my mood like 200%. So, and they're such simple things, but people aren't talking about them. They'd rather like sell you Adderall pills, which I have, but I don't take anymore.
And we're seeing that there are people that are unfortunately dying that are doing everything correctly. What you said about vitamin D, part of healing from PTSD was I was severely vitamin D deficient. Wow. So I started going outside, and it changed me, right? Like, we need sunshine.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. So you first ran as a libertarian, didn't get the libertarian nomination, but then, so now you're running as an independent, which I love everything you're running for. I believe everything you're saying, like there needs to be so much more of that, not just in our country, but like the whole world. And it seems so simple but it's just, people get wrapped up in money and power and blah, blah, blah. So what would you say to people who are like, well, why is she running? Why is Sorinne running? She's pulling votes away from Joe Jorgensen. She's, why would she run almost like against her?
Well, somebody has asked me that already. And my response is, everything is energy. We vibrate at very different frequencies. And so the people that resonate with me are different people that resonate with her. So we're not actually competing. We're just attracting our tribes, essentially, right? Like the people that would vote for Trump are not people that resonate with me. People that would vote for Biden are not people that resonate with me. And when I mean by vote, I mean like willingly actually want to, not feeling like they're forced to or because they're party loyal. Because I have a lot of friends that are voting for candidates this year that they do not want to vote for out of fear. And that's not a real vote.
Sounds like Biden. Yeah.
Yes. So that's the thing, is like, it's not a competition. And even from day one, I said, the only competition that I have in this race is against myself. It's about like, the more I work on myself, the higher my frequency is and the more I attract people to me. And so I just have to focus on that.
So you think your voters, like, let's say you weren't running at all, your voters would be then, you think they would mostly be not voting at all, or could you see them going towards Joe or going towards, I mean, it's hard to know how that would go.
There are people that say they're voting for me, and some, I was in the primaries as a write-in in California, and I was on the ballot in New Mexico, and there are people that voted for me already from all parties. So I don't know who they would vote for, if they would vote at all if I wasn't running. But I'm a connector, and that's actually part of the reason I also feel that I should be running and should be president, is because I've always been able to connect people from different parts of life, regardless of their beliefs, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of their net worth. Mm-hmm. That's just who I am. I'm able to connect people, to help them feel safe, and to realize like that we have a lot more in common than we don't, which is really important when we want to get along and have peace in the world.
Who do you think, like what kinds of voters do you think like you really appeal to right now?
The spiritual community and a lot of the, advanced, probably, scientific community. I don't know if that's the right word, but people that are into like neuroscience, epigenetics, quantum mechanics, those kind of people. And because I have I guess a decent presence in the spiritual community, especially as I've been running for office, I've been interviewed by different people that are speaking to people that are in the spiritual community, as well as entrepreneurs, lots of entrepreneurs, because I'm a go-getter. Everything I've ever wanted to achieve, I have. And so I'm really good at teaching people how to sell with integrity, how to influence with integrity. And so people are drawn to that. And also, I think people that have been through a lot of trauma resonate with me as well. People that have been abused, people that, have not necessarily made choices they would make again, right?
Yeah, I was really feeling when you were talking about like how kids who grow up in homes where there are no boundaries grow up to be like codependent and people pleasers. And I was like, she is describing me. So I was like, oh, wow. And I never think like, oh, well, because I know people have been through so much worse. So I never say like, oh, I was abused. But like, I definitely grew up with that, like no boundaries thing. And then like had to work so hard on myself and still am such a people pleaser. So like those parts that you really spoke to me. So
something I want to mention, I started writing a book before I started running for office. I was hoping it would be done before, but it's not, and that's okay. But I started out by saying, I could tell you that I grew up abused, or I could tell you I grew up loved. They're both true. Like, why was I abused? Because, my mother didn't know how to love me the way that was really loving. She wanted the best for me, and that was her way to force me to do what she thought was best for me, right? So that's why it's been easy to forgive her and to understand. It's like she didn't want to harm me. This is how she was raised. She was just repeating what she learned, because I was an only child. I was all she had, and she's an only child, and she came to this country with nothing. And so that's really important for people to understand too, that most of the times I think that parents that don't treat their children well don't always do it because they want to harm their children, but they really want what's best. But nobody showed them how to influence with integrity, how to help their children. Like, I'm not doing any of those things my mom wanted me to do. I played piano every day for 9 years for hours. I took algebra classes in 3rd grade. I graduated high school in 2.5 years. I did all these things that I'm not doing today because it wasn't what I was meant to do, right? Like, we all have natural inclinations that if we follow them, we're going to excel at them. And if we excel at them, people are going to notice. They're going to want to be around us. They're going to want what we have. And so another big part of like why I'm running is I want people to feel safe in this country, to be their most authentic selves, and realize that if they take that leap of faith, that they will be okay. As long as you keep giving without expectations, you'll receive as well. It's all energy, and this is a bit metaphysical where we're going now.
And like, so, yeah, I mean, and I know there's people listening who are like, yeah, right. Okay. So I'm going to just give up my high paying job that that supports my family and go like start going to open mics and be a guitar player. Like, that's not really feasible, but I'm sure there's something, in the middle of that, that you don't go broke.
Yeah.
You can still like explore your passions.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, because I grew up so poor, I thought money was really important as an adult. So that was the first thing I pursued. I was like, I won't take a job unless I make 6 figures. Well, I got that job and it almost killed me, right? It forced me to realize money is not that important.
How did it almost kill you? Like, just from working, like,
I couldn't be around people who lacked integrity. And I couldn't do what they wanted me to do. I couldn't lie to my customers. I just can't do that.
Is that when you were selling cars? Is that when you were like,
yes. Yeah. So I worked for Bentley, Lamborghini, Lotus, Tesla, Spiker. I've been around. I've done a lot. And so that was when I realized, like, yeah, I don't need all this stuff. And all these people I attracted to my life because I had all this stuff, they didn't really care about me either. They were just there because I paid for everything and took care of them, which I enjoyed because I was insecure and I had my codependency from being abused, right?
Wow.
So then I'm like, wow, I don't want that anymore. Like, I decided to simplify my life. And like, without worrying about money, I've had the best, 11 years of my life, I think.
That's amazing. Yeah.
But it's about giving and being authentic.
Did you ever think at any point before you decided to run independently, did you ever think like, oh, like maybe I could team up with Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen to help them? Like, was that ever a thought?
No, I met them both at the California State Convention and we didn't really resonate. And so I just, and also I had to remember why I started, and it wasn't about any political campaign. It was about helping heal people, helping empower people, helping free people, and helping unite people. And I realized, that I had to move beyond that. And I'm also a California state delegate for the Libertarian Party. So I got to see both aspects of being a candidate and being a delegate. And I felt that there was a lack of integrity in the way the nomination process went. And so and now that I've removed myself, as a libertarian candidate and being an independent candidate, I actually am very glad that I made that choice, because I realized that, there's not a lot of cohesion within the party as well. And that many people don't understand what it means to be a libertarian. And as soon as I came out as libertarian, many of my friends forgot who I was.
What do you mean by that?
They started just thinking, oh, Sorinne's a libertarian, and they had a preconceived idea of what libertarians are that was not correct.
They just like judged. Yeah, they're like, what are you gonna put a boot on your head? I don't know. Most people don't know anything about libertarians.
Yeah, and
most people think that it's like most people equate libertarians with like far right, which is not true. So
yeah, so I realized it's a lot easier to just be as an independent, be myself, let people get to know me instead of judging me before they get to know me. And also it just gives me a lot more freedom. I'm still making monthly contributions to the California Party because I made an agreement earlier this year and I'm going to honor it. But I don't know. I'm happy being independent for right now.
If for some, if the election, like if you don't for some reason get to be president in 2020, would you ever think, of running locally or doing something, more on a local level?
No, and I thought about it, and I've kind of especially since January, since I first started this process, because before I started running, when I was dealing with imposter syndrome, I was saying, why don't I run for mayor or something smaller, right? And then I was like, no, I can't, because again, back to working for people who lacked integrity. I don't want to answer to people that are going to pressure me to play politics with them, that are going to pressure me to do things that are out of integrity with me. I have a friend she's an elected official in the Democratic Party, and she was telling me she was going to a meeting recently with a bunch of Democrats who don't really know each other, but they go to endorse each other. I can't do that, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you to like support this person if I don't actually trust them and believe in them. Like, to me, integrity matters more than anything else. And then as I started running, there were people that saying, oh, you should run for governor or vice president or, all these different positions. And I thought about it, like, maybe. But now I'm like, no, I'm not a politician. I'm not going to be a politician. I see why being career politicians is actually very dangerous as well. I'm like, no, I'm here to fix things and make things better and help change the political landscape. Right. So I'm not going to play politics. I'm not going to run for any other position. At least that's how I feel today. It doesn't make sense, unless we change the landscape.
What's dangerous about being a career politician?
Well, I don't like to bring up Nancy, but
bring her up. No, but it's just her hair done. She's off. All bets are off.
Well, that's it, right? It's like, saying, oh, she was set up. No, there was no setup. She knows exactly what she's doing.
She could have dyed her hair at home. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like earlier this year, they were wearing these tribal outfits and stuff like that.
Oh my God, so much pandering. It's crazy. Yeah.
So that really doesn't sit well. That's theatrics to me. These people, they seem to not care what anybody thinks. They think that they can get away with saying anything, that people are going to trust them. And to me, that's very dangerous. I mean, I'm sorry. I know Trump's been doing it for a long time too. There's a lot of lack of integrity. And he's not a career politician, but right. he's an entertainer. So he's coming from a different place. And so I feel like we really need to bring in some people that cannot be bought, people who really care about doing the right thing for humanity, that aren't playing games, that aren't like, oh, endorse me, I'll endorse you. Like, no, like actually support people that we believe in and get the right people in all positions. Yes, like local, state, everything. We should really have more authentic people with integrity in politics, get the money out, get rid of all the lobbyists. I mean, that's the thing with a lot of the career politicians. Growing up in San Francisco, again, back to Gavin Newsom, I forget if he's still related to Nancy, but the Gettys, and his family is just full of politicians, and they have all this wealth, and he owned a lot of businesses in San Francisco. They've got, hands in so many different pockets. It's, you just don't know if you can trust them or not, and for me, it's like, I don't have any for-profit business. I've been doing nonprofit work for, about a decade. And so we need people like that really are willing to give 100% and that can't be bought in politics. And that's my concern with career politicians. But the flip side is, if we get somebody really good with integrity, we do want them around. So I haven't figured out the solution. But I'm always open to considering ideas, because nothing, it's all, like I said, it's all relative, like we started the conversation.
Do you ever think like, okay, your intentions are really good. You like have such a good heart and soul, and your energy is like, you're killing it on every level. Do you ever worry like, okay, if you do get to a position like a president or like someone, not that you're going to run now for something locally, but if you change your mind or whatever, went a different direction at some point, do you ever think like, well, what if I get up there and everybody that's up here with me, all the other like world leaders, what if everyone is corrupt? How big of a difference can you make if everyone you work with is either bought off or corrupt, or, you know what I mean? Like if you get up there and it's kind of just you, in the space that you're in.
Well, my first 100 days in office, I'm going to invite all the leaders to come meet with me. We're going to have one-on-ones. I'm going to get to know them. I'm going to find out what their challenges are, and I'm going to help them work with me. Because I believe that nobody wants to have wars. We all want to live in peace. And I believe that if we talk to each other, we can help each other. But we really need to approach it from a place of genuinely wanting to get along. And that, that's really important. Is I want to bring peace about in the world. I want to be a catalyst for that. Because again, one person cannot do it. But that's my strategy, is just to engage with people one-on-one, because that's one of my biggest strengths.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So more powwows. I like it. I feel like, who's going to meet you and not like you and be on board?
I love to hug people too. So
good hugs. Yeah. You know what? Like, are you one of these people that's like, fuck the Rona, we're just going to hug? That's how I am.
I respect boundaries. So, as long as it's okay with them. Yeah.
I'll never force a hug on anybody,
Yes.
No forced hugs. Why do you think that there are so many stigmas against the third parties and like third party candidates? How do you think that came about?
I don't know if it's really a stigma, but I think that we have a lot of people that aren't, unfortunately, brave to make that choice, that they're buying into the media. That, like I have a friend, he was Obama's lead pollster, and I was asking him, why were they so wrong about Clinton?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, because they didn't do the polls right, but people buy into that, and so they, it's groupthink, unfortunately. And so that's why I'm really into free thinking. And that's, I think what the resistance is with third party. But if we get enough people that believe, and that's really why, I'm excited to be running as a write-in. It is a conscious vote for people to have to sit down and spell my name correctly on their ballot.
How are they going to spell your name correctly, Sorinne? It's like your last name is Ardeleanu. What, like, that's what I worry about. Like, what if they spell your name wrong? Is that still going to count?
I'm working on figuring that out. I think it may, if it's close enough.
Okay. Can they just write like Sorinne and be like, I'm talking about? Yeah.
I think I'm the only Sorinne running for president this year.
Yeah. I love it. Who are some of your like spiritual inspirations or, leaders? Like how, who sort of helped to guide you to where you are now?
Sure. So I've been studying a philosophy of life since 2011. It's called concept therapy, and it basically correlates universal truths, looking at theology and various sciences, all the way back to like Zarathustrians. And so the founder of this philosophy, his name is Dr. Thurman Fleet, and he was in World War I, and he was like heavily decorated. I think he had a Purple Heart, and I forget, I don't know all the awards he had, but he was mustard gassed, and he was only given like a year to live. And he met a chiropractor who helped him get better, and he healed, and he became a chiropractor, and he started healing people, but he was getting mixed results, and so he kind of had a breakdown, and then he went away, and then he had an illumination, and basically like all these universal truths came to him, and he put them together and started teaching them to doctors in 1931 in San Antonio, Texas. And one of my best friends introduced me to this philosophy, and I won't say who my friend is, but he's been on the cover of Time magazine,
that really narrows it down.
And he's created a technology that all of us use today. But he took me under his wings in 2011, and he introduced me to this philosophy because in 2011 was when I was starting to hit bottom of PTSD, and I started studying this philosophy then, and it changed my life. And so I teach people this philosophy. I've been doing like stuff for free for years, just to like, again, because it's like knowledge is power. And the only way I can help people make better decisions is by empowering them. And also like, not by telling people what to think, but how to think, right? Because I don't want people to agree with me. I don't want to be in an echo chamber. We don't grow that way. But this philosophy has been the greatest thing that's happened to me. And he's really, even though he was a chiropractor, he's the one that taught me that, he said, I don't heal people with my hands. I heal with my words. People were coming in from all over to see him. They were rerouting traffic. This was before the internet, right? The 40s, the 50s.
Whoa. Yeah.
Because people thought that he was a great chiropractor, but really he was healing people with their words. And that's why I talked about, functional disease, right?
Yeah.
Most of it comes from the mind. Even Jesus, he was a great healer, but what did he do? He told people they were forgiven. Their sins were forgiven them. Right? So like when you don't forgive yourself, you can make yourself sick. I had ulcers at one point because I wasn't forgiving myself.
Wow.
And so, I went to endocrinologist, I went to a GI, I went to OBGYN, ultrasounds, blood work, x-rays, everything. And it turned out that it was because I was not forgiving myself because of something that happened in my life. Right. And so this philosophy has really, really helped me and everyone that I've shared it with. But it's a lot of work, and most people don't want to work. Or, most
That's
people don't admit that they're wrong.
Where, if you could think of off the bat, if like anybody listening to this is going like, wow, that sounds fascinating. Like, are there any, like, where should people go? Like, are there any books on this subject or anything, could you point people to like a couple of specific things?
Yeah. So there's actually 4 books I would love to recommend that have really helped me, that I believe would help any other human being. And the first one is by Dr. Thurman Fleet, and it's called The Rays of the Dawn, like sun rays, Rays of the Dawn. And then there's another book called I Am That, which is transcriptions of conversations with this Indian guru. And I'm sorry if I mispronounce his name, Nisargadatta Maharaj. People are flying from all over the world to see him.
The fact you even tried to say that is astounding. Yeah.
But it's called I Am That. It's a very famous book.
Okay,
cool. And then, The Kabbalion by the 3 Initiates. That's a great book.
Kabbalion? How do you spell that?
Yes. Kybalion.
Okay.
And that's a book that really helps teach people universal laws about energy, because remember, we're made out of energy. And if you understand how energy works, you'll understand why things happen the way they do. And you'll also understand how to work with them correctly to get what you want out of life. And the last book is called The Biology of Belief, which is written by one of my colleagues, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's one of the first people in history to clone stem cells and find out that our DNA is just a blueprint and that we can change it.
What? How can we change our DNA?
Well, you will have to tune in. But yeah, he is one of the most generous living beings I know. He's always sharing freely. And it's just tons of peer-reviewed science to back this up, because I know many people are skeptical, like, oh, you can't do that. But no, I really respect him because he's been doing this longer than I've been alive, and he's coming from a scientific community. So all that science is in there for people that really need that. For me, it's like once I started experiencing results in my life, it's like, that's all that matters. It's like if you're getting the outcomes you want, in your life from the philosophies you subscribe to, great. If you're not, then it's time to look at something else.
What kind of results? Like how were you changed?
I'm healthy.
Mm.
You know, I'm not disabled. I don't have spasms. I got my voice. I don't have ulcers. I feel good. I mean, like I said, I was in and out of hospital many times with lots of pain that doctors couldn't help me with. And it was really like reading these books. I used to go to a book club every week for 7 years to read The Rays of the Dawn and discuss it
Wow.
with other people. Same thing with I Am That. That's another book I've read in groups of people. Because the thing is like I mentioned in the beginning about hypnosis, you can self-hypnotize yourself, right? Auto-suggestion is what it's called. And
How?
so repetition. So that's why I
That
keep
does that
reading and rereading the same books, right?
does
Because
that get
you're
into like
repeating.
tapping, like EFT, like it's and that's a thing
Yeah,
that can help get rid of
it
pain.
that's a little different. And I have a colleague that does EFT, and she's gone through it with me, and it really helped me in the past, like when I was going through trauma. But it's different. Yeah, no, but I'm just talking about like if you want to change, like what concepts you operate from, your whole life will change. But you have to do it through repetition. You can't just read a book one time or a chapter one time.
Like a
You're gonna have to keep
mantra
going over it.
kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and also as you go back and study the things that you studied before, because you're always evolving, you're going to interpret things differently. You're going to see things differently. Like this morning, I watched an interview I did 4 years ago with Dr. Sue Morter. She's this energy medicine healing woman. And it's like, I just got like a whole different level of understanding watching it today than even like a few weeks ago when I shared it for the first time in a few years, because like I
Wow.
am changing. And so that's the thing is like when we go back to these kinds of books, we understand the deeper meanings to them because we've changed and so it applies differently to us.
Yeah, it's like almost like paint, like the first coat gets through something and then the second coat. I don't know. This might be a terrible metaphor.
No, no,
Uh,
but it is. Yeah, because we have the first 7 years of our life, we're just like from the actually third trimester to age 7, our subconscious mind is wide open. All it's doing
wow.
is receiving information, and because we don't know how to reason yet, we can't dispute it, right? We can't classify it as a fact, theory, or fantasy. We just take everything in as fact. And most people grow up and they don't reclassify this information that they've been operating from. Like, I was operating from a victim mentality till I hit bottom, and then I
Wow.
realized, wait, I'm creating all this pain in my life. I can choose to create pleasure in my life, peace in my life. But I was blaming everybody else, but it took
Yeah.
hitting bottom. But I believe you don't have to hit bottom if you really want a better life. But again, it takes work, and not everybody wants to work.
Yeah, all I heard growing up is money doesn't grow on trees. Like there was this like such a feeling of lack all the time. And then like now as an adult, I'm like, "Hey, wait a minute. Like the nice toilet paper was not that more expensive, or like I'll just see like I'm like, "What? Like cable, wasn't that I mean, I don't know. I look at the stuff like my parents spent money on and stuff they didn't. I'm just like, oh wow, like we were like doing okay. Like my parents made it seem like we were like super broke. And I'm like, we just didn't have a pool. It's okay, like or like what I like to call Long Island broke, no pool, no maid. But it's like we're still doing okay, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's weird. As a kid, I was like convinced that we were like just doing horribly. Because it's like right the message that we're getting all the time. Like I learned like never to ask for anything, um like not just like stuff to buy and toys or whatever, but just like don't like expect anything. Don't like if you want to talk about your feelings, like you're making a big deal of it. Like if you don't just accept your parents as who they are, you're like making a fuss or whatever. So it was a lot of like nobody wants to hear what you're thinking kind of growing up. And I don't know, this is turning into a therapy session for me, Sorinne. I don't know how I got here.
No, it's good, but that's the thing. This is the human condition, right? Like we all have something that has caused us some pain in our life, and most people keep it inside, and it's not good because that energy has to go somewhere, right? Like energy is always moving, and if you try to hold it in, it's going to make you sick. It's going to destroy you from the inside out. You have to let it out constructively, sublimate it, turn it into something positive. Love and hate are on opposite ends of the same spectrum, right? Like where does love begin? Where does hate begin, right? It's all relative. It's up to you to choose what are you focusing on, good or bad. There's a parable that Chinese farmer Alan Watts talks about. I don't know if you're familiar with him,
Oh,
but
I've
he
heard of
basically,
him. Yeah.
but he basically, there's, and I don't know it verbatim, but essentially there's a story of a Chinese farmer with a son and a horse. And one day the horse runs away, and the neighbors, tell the farmer, like, oh, it's a bad thing. You don't have a horse anymore. You're not going to make any money. Right. And then the father says, oh, who knows, we'll see. It's not done yet. And the next day, the horse comes back with a whole bunch of wild horses. And the neighbors say, oh, this is a good thing. You're going to be very rich now. You have all these horses that you can work with. He said, oh, we'll see. It's not over yet. And then the next day, his son gets injured by the horses. And they're like, oh, that's so bad. Now your son can't work with the horses. You won't have any money. It's like, oh, we'll see. It's not over yet. And then, like, the next day, there's a civil war that breaks out, and all the healthy young men are taken from town. And people go to the neighbor or to the father and say, oh, that's such a good thing. Your son doesn't have to go. He can stay home. It's like, it's not over yet. We don't know. Right. It's like, oh, it seems like a bad thing, then a good thing, bad thing, good thing. It's just be neutral, be here, and realize that, like, ultimately life is working out in our favor. And that things that seem like they could be the worst things in your life could actually be the best things in my life, in your life. Like, and to think about my life, sorry.
Yeah.
All the trauma I went through, yes, it was painful, and I came close to death so many times, but I'm so grateful for who I have become by overcoming all that. And the other thing I've realized, everything in life has to work. A little tree, from a seed to become, a little seed to become a massive tree, right? It is a lot of effort. Doesn't have the same level of consciousness as us, right? But it's still not easy. Like, imagine how much it has to withstand to make it. And not all of them do. Or like a little bird breaking out through its shell. Not all of them do, right? And so humans are not exempt. We have to overcome challenges too to reach our potential, right? And we have to work. We can't feel sorry for ourselves. Our animals, when they're injured, what do? They rest, they try to get better. They don't feel sorry for themselves. They don't think about that. And us humans, we start to feel sorry for ourselves, and we make ourselves weaker and sicker. But it's like, rest, listen to your body, recover. You'll be fine. Move forward. Don't get stuck in that. Keep the energy going through you.
What do you think? What would you point to as the sort of cause or contributor to, like, just all the unrest in the country, like the crazy freaking riots and protests and like looting and stuff, and I don't know, I feel like there's a spiritual cause for this.
I don't know. I'm thinking of the right word. I want to say ignorance, but out of a respectful place. Like, most of us just don't understand how life works. There's a lot of confusion, and people want answers, and their experts are not giving them the answers that actually make sense, because they try to apply them and things don't work out the way they want. And so I think people are fed up that they've been lied to. I don't know how many people realize this yet, but eventually they will. And so I think that's what that unrest is, because a lot of people have been kept down by withholding knowledge from them, and by distracting them. We need to be present. We really need to pay attention and not get sucked into our screens and all the drama. It's like, it's going to keep going on. You paying attention to it doesn't change it. What changes is you paying attention to you and working on yourself so you can lead by example. And that's why I invest so much in me, is to show people what's possible. But they have to go within. They have to take personal responsibility, and they have to do the work.
Yeah, personal responsibility. And like, also, when you mentioned like working on yourself first, it reminds me so much of Jordan Peterson and what he stands for. And he has this really great book, 12 Rules for Life. And it's all about, like, taking, realizing that you are in charge of your life, and everything that's going on is you're doing, and make your bed first before criticizing anybody else. And so, yeah, I hear like a lot of that in your principles.
Yeah, and also, like, one of the things I've been trying to do is really, not to be critical of others, because we don't know what they're supposed to do, right? Where their path is going to lead them. And if you look at my life and all the things I did when I was younger, like, I shouldn't have ended up here, if people were betting back then, but it's like, no, I made it. And so others can also be going through a lot of darkness, making choices that they won't make again, and it could lead them to a really good place.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorinne, this is great. How can people follow you, support you? Are there, are you going to be doing any kind of events in the next couple months?
Yeah, so actually, my website is Sorinne
Wow.
2020.
I
So
love
yeah,
it.
just my name, 2020.com. And yeah, donations help, volunteers help. People can sign up for my newsletter on my website and they get direct access to me so they can email me. And there's also links to donate on my website because right now, the biggest thing is just making sure that people can write my name in and that it's counted. So I do need some more support. I have a decent team, but we're growing every day, but the more the merrier. And then yeah, I think that's it. Sorry, I forgot what
Awesome.
else. So yeah.
Awesome. Follow Sorinne on Twitter at Sorinne, Sorinne 2020, and follow her on all the other things as well. Donate. I'm definitely going to be posting all these books that you mentioned. I'm definitely going to be reading them myself because I'm into all that shit too. Sorinne, thank you so much for coming on. This was so great. I wish you the best. You're doing a really different, necessary thing. I feel like there should be, more leaders like you out there.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Bye.